with various Europeans as well as Americans and maybe people from all over the world, Congress members perhaps.
No, there was nobody political there.
Okay.
And just to clarify, the meetings took place at the UN only as a venue. They weren't what they would deem UN meetings. It was a venue chosen because they could get various level military and diplomatic people in that venue without causing any notice.
Now,
Yeah.
if I'm going to offer an interesting point to that.
Okay, is everyone still there?
I'm still here.
Hello.
Did we get everybody?
Hi.
Yep, we're all back.
Hi, Carrie.
Okay, well, assuming that wasn't done on your side, that was probably the powers that be trying to reconnect so that they could tap in properly to this call.
Okay, well, we'll give them a good education.
Yeah, that's usually goes on. So let's resume with what you were saying about how they chose the venue at the UN.
Okay, as I was saying about the venue, the UN, it offers anonymity because so many diplomats come in and out. That's provided that people wear civvies. Now, at the time of the February 12th meeting, and we found this out subsequently, is that the Russians, at least one, probably two, were wearing their uniforms. And that makes things difficult because when you walk in with a military uniform, people are going to take notice, and where that person or persons go within the UN is going to be noticed. So any other subsequent meetings that would happen at the UN or elsewhere, everybody was to be in civilian clothes to offer anonymity. So that's very important to understand that.
But also you said that, in essence, Source A was originally part of those meetings, and then you said, I believe that those meetings were relocated off-site to another place, and then he was also taken out of those meetings.
He was taken out of that program and put into another program.
All right, so if we just recap here, the initial February 12th meeting happened at the UN. All subsequent meetings, under the idea of the UN, that's both foreign and domestic counterparts, primarily military from what we understand, they met elsewhere. They met, from what we understand, in upstate New York, at a private residence or a private facility.
Okay, just out of curiosity, are you aware of whose residence? Just not that you're going to tell us, but are you aware of that person? No? Okay.
No, not the residence, not per se. We know the location.
See, what happened was they had the February 12th meeting. It was a very contentious meeting. It became highly politicized. They really didn't get anywhere. In our sources' words, the meeting was somewhat of a debacle. And they quickly realized that the people they had that constituted members of that meeting were a little too high in the political end of things. So what they wanted to do is they really wanted to reconstitute the content of the people they were going to meet. So our guy went off to Europe. He went to England, Germany, France, Italy. He went to Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the Netherlands. Am I missing anything?
No. Well, this was primarily a feeling out period with NATO countries.
Right. So what he wanted to do and what his superiors wanted to do is reconstitute the members of the meeting to what they deemed to be a high middle-level bureaucratic group of members who would constitute people who got things done. And
we're also part of the military. Is that right?
There were military members in there, but they were people that have a great facility to get things done. And so what their plan is to reconstitute these members, get people that know how to get things done, hammer out the issues, and then at some point when they agree on certain things that need to be done to move towards disclosure, it then would be presented to the diplomatic level.
Okay, but the guy, your source, was then sent off. Now, was he sent off as an ambassador representing that group of people, or was he taken out because they decided that they didn't want him to be part of such high-level talks for some reason?
Here's the thing, is that our source was moved into another program. That is the reason why he was taken out.
He was present, my understanding is, at the UN meeting where the beings did show up. Isn't that right? I don't know where that got started, Carrie. Our source has never ever said that there was beings, anything extraterrestrial. This was primarily human. And this was the opportunity. There are two reasons that, and I'm going to try to make this very clear. First of all, you need a cover, okay? A cover in which you can get all these people together, both foreign and domestic counterparts, primarily military, to get together and talk about something. Now, they can't have a sign that says UFO, secret UFO UN meeting, okay? There had to be another issue at the time that would allow these guys to get together. We believe, with high probability, and it's been alluded to by our source, that the shoot-down, remember the satellite shoot-down over Hawaii, and the fact that the Pentagon released that information prior to the shoot-down? Do you folks remember that? Yes, I remember you discussing it on an interview.
Okay, all right, that was the cover. Now, once they're inside, then they talk about what they want to talk about. This is how meetings are done. This is how back-channeling is done.
Let me give you this is Shawn. Let me give you a bit of a timeline. Okay, so we have the February 12th meeting. It didn't go so well. Our guy goes to Europe, gets a lot of input. His superiors decide to reconstitute the members of the meeting. They do. There's meetings upstate in February, March, and April of 2008. Okay, our guy is part of that. Okay, in late April, he's brought into another program. Okay, now one of the reasons he was brought over is that they wanted to have a nexus from the meetings that were taking place of the previous program and the new program he was brought in. So he was a nexus. So what happened was in April, May of 2008, our guy goes to a secured facility and he actually gets into the new program, okay, where he directly goes from the position of being involved in the disclosure efforts to a position that he's actually going to be an envoy.
Envoy what? To humans?
An interface between an ET race and the working groups that are trying to move towards disclosure.
So in a sense,
that's
he
where
was
the new
promoted.
program is.
His need to know was promoted.
I wouldn't use the word promoted. He was just put in a different program.
Okay.
I don't think he would necessarily say he was promoted. So that program happened in late April, early May, where he went into the new program.
What did the new program, what was its objective?
Its objective was to create a team of people, a 6-person team, to directly interface with what we call the conformers, the silicon carbon-based life form.
The conformers, just to bridge over to the last major interview which I heard with Open Minds in May of last year, are a strange life form that you described as being a little bit like Play-Doh, and they can change their shape and hold it for a certain time, although I believe you explained that it was very clear to all who experienced this group that they were not holographic or interdimensional. They were very, very physical, but they had this ability to sort of change their form and then interact in different ways with the perceptions of those people who were watching them. This is this same group.
Okay, now, Bill, let me clarify something here. In an email received in middle May 2008, in the postscript, okay, this is what our guy wrote. The others, conformers or controllers, they were still debating about what kind of name they wanted to use because, quite frankly, it's very difficult to discern exactly what this species name is, because if you actually hear these things talk in their native tongue, as it were, it sounds like pebbles hitting a steel bucket. Okay?
Yeah.
So they never revealed exactly what they called themselves. Okay? So the humans are kind of filling in the gap here. Okay? So here's the postscript. The others, conformers or controllers, appear humanoid as in standing upright. However, their skin and overall shape is like Play-Doh, slowly moving and taking no distinct form. Now, I don't know if this is their actual skin or it is a protective suit or some sort of biosuit. See what I'm up against? Sorry, I don't know what I'm looking at or what the hell it is.
Yep.
So how can I give you a definitive answer?
Okay.
They communicate directly to the mind. I just don't know when they were talking to me. Okay? Now, keep that picture in mind. That's before our guy directly interfaced with them and saw what they looked like. The Clado aspect of them is a biosuit. He found out after, when he actually interfaced with them in their environment.
The biosuit is clay-like. It's like the color of an aircraft carrier. It's undulating. That's in their biosuit. When they're out of their biosuit, they are crystalline in structure, very ceramic-looking, white, bright, maybe translucent at times, 3 to 5 feet tall, maybe 2.5, 3 feet wide, no discernible legs.
They have silver flecks, this is Shawn. They have silver flecks on them, out of which they can extend crystalline appendages to grab things.
They're primarily silicon-based with some carbon.
They're about 85% silicon, if my memory serves me correct. 85% silicon, 15% carbon.
They're not as humanoid, then, as many of the races that contactees have reported, and also insiders have reported. I mean, I'm talking about looking more or less like us, with 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth and ears and fingers and toes and all this kind of stuff. You're saying that they don't actually look humanoid in that sense?
Bill and Carrie, go get a big diamond, 3 to 5 feet tall. That's what we're looking at.
Okay. So it's something really quite different that hasn't been reported in the experiential UFO literature before. By now, the people listening to this will want to know, well, who is this race? How do they correlate this with all the other beings that have been reported? Where do they come from? How come these guys are at the tip of the disclosure arrow? And how about all the other guys who we do know a little bit more about, like, you know, the Nordics and the tall whites from Area 51 and the Anunnaki and the little grey guys and all the others? And what are they doing in this mix? And why are we talking to these ones?
Well, this particular ET race finds our atmosphere extremely hostile. Okay,
Our environment, period.
Yeah, they need it really hot. Now, there are a group of ET races that seem to defer to this particular silicon-based life form. Okay, and my feeling is that they use 1 or 2 of these other species to interface for them on our planet, and so this is where you get the testimony of perhaps the tall whites, because there is a connection between the tall whites and this particular ET life form.
This is something that our source believes. He's not sure. This is a distinct possibility.
You're saying that this particular life form is basically sort of calling the shots, as it were, or managing some kind of a strategic operation, but they don't show up very often.
We don't know that for sure. It appears, and our source will often say this, when I put my military hat on, and I look at the situation, it appears that these races defer. Now, the Greys, it appears, are very rogue, from what we understand, in that there may be very little, if no control, by the silicon-based race, the conformers, over the Greys. That's something that we think is fairly certain. Now, with other races, there appears to be a deference. It does not mean that they're calling shots. We've got to be very careful.
You know, the analogy I use, Bill, is that if ET were to come down and go to the General Assembly and they were to look at the Secretary General of the UN, they could glean from that the Secretary of the UN runs the world. But in reality, it's a particular person that's been chosen to represent a political body that is a general representation of the political processes of the planet. But it doesn't mean the Secretary General runs it. So it's difficult to say whether or not this particular silicon-based life form is running the show. And this is one of the things that our source continually says. You know, you can't make that assumption because we don't have enough information.
Where did the idea come from that they were, to any extent, running the show? And where do you get the idea that other races defer to them. Did these guys sit with these other races and watch them defer to them? Did this silicon life form tell them that was the case?
Our source had seen